Hey everybody, it's Carnival of Randomness Zoom with our something or other. And this is it for the year. It's the holidays. We're busy. It's been great fun. We'll be coming back next year with lots of fun shows.
Oh yeah.
If some people overseas, so we're gonna have to really work on the time change, which is gonna be good. But we have Patrick, of course, and somebody sending me weird messages, which I'm not going to look at. But we have a very special guest today. But we're going to turn it over to our other great regular Chaz to introduce her. So I give you Chaz Lockwood to introduce our very special guest. Take it away, Chaz.
Yeah, Pat and Rob, thanks for taking my suggestion, because this friend of mine has a connection with the Rochester scene and could spin a couple tales, and is also doing very well. I think he's got like 1,200 followers on Facebook and is gigging and recording with esteemed producers, and this is my friend Jenna McGrath.
Hey, Jenna.
Hey.
Thanks, Pat. And yeah, I knew Jenna from way back in the '80s when we were both kids, and in our respective bands. I never got to see Jenna play out. She didn't really get into a band, I don't think, until she moved to New York City. But it's just gotten more and more interesting by the day, right, Jenna?
It has.
When did you get into a band, actually, and how did you sort of come on the scene, like in Rochester?
Well, I was in an industrial band called X Death, but we didn't actually ever play. It just kind of fell apart due to lack of organization. But I started in classical music as a kid, so that's really the first music I was doing for a long time. And then I just got tired of being told what to play and started playing Ramones songs on the bass, which I had no formal training in. But then, like, with the whole like X Death project,
I love that name.
X Death was I don't know if you remember Charlie Russell.
I never knew him personally, but I knew him one person removed. He was a cool guy. He did like kind of like dark. It wasn't really. Well, I guess it was indie. It wasn't punk.
I don't know. To me, it seems industrial because he was like, let's take some guitar pickups and put them inside of some paint cans and play on those and see what happens. At least that was what we we're going to try to do with X Death, you know. I guess I would have been playing the paint can, but it just kind of, you know, never really took root, or maybe I left Rochester. I'm not exactly sure what happened.
I'm thinking for like industrial, I'm like for me, Sisters of Mercy, I guess, would be maybe industrial in terms of what I like. I think. Yeah,
this would have been like way more weird and experimental. He was just like a really odd experimental type of guy who had done various live performances, but you know, it was pretty out there, as I recall.
There's some guys that got booed off the stage when I saw Peter Gabriel in the 80s. This is for his Peter Gabriel 3 or whatever you called the Game Without Frontiers album, because he had this opening band. They came out, they just had trash cans. They hit them with chains.
Hey, Jenna, why did you bring up Charlie Russell again? I lost track.
Well, because you were saying I wasn't in a band in Rochester, which is true.
Oh yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
But that's
I think I met you. I think I met you at like Backstreets. I think I remember actually. Colorblind James was playing, or one of the local bands, and you were hanging around.
Well, I used to go there a lot because they would let in, you know, young teenagers and serve them alcohol. So there was that.
Plus, I mean, back in the day, I use that term, unfortunately, now is like I got into scourges underage all the time. Nobody cared. I had some connections, yeah, but nobody really cared in those days where you could get in. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much got into scourges, although there were times when I was like turned away, probably just for like looking too young early on. But then at one point, Oh, right. We all got fake IDs at one point, and then I got in everywhere. So that's what happened.
That was
I
like
don't know.
the
I
fun
remember
one.
Scorches being kind of tough.
The fun one was like the one time at one bar in East Rochester in those days, Patams. I remember somebody in front of me, the door guy looks and goes, "This is a really bad fake ID. Get a better one next time. Lets her in."
Yeah, well, someone who is now a medical doctor, and my friend's brother went to the U of R, and the guy who was the medical doctor now had one of the really early Mac computers, and he just kind of like stole a bunch of ID blinks from the University of Rochester, and then faked their like background paper with the university crest on it, and made pretty realistic looking Rochester IDs that said we were all 25, and you know, it all seemed like good fun, and nobody I think ever got in trouble for it. Although now, you'd be in federal prison on some sort of anti-terrorism act for that type of behavior. So yeah, after that it was no problem getting into Scorgies. It all comes back to me now.
Yes, to me, those are fun times. Come on, Chaz.
Yeah, good times. I remember what my brain cells let me remember. Backstreets would serve you beer in I don't know if I'm still on, if you guys can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear
you. Yeah.
You get beer in containers the size of popcorn buckets.
Yeah, but I went to see Dred Zeppelin there, and this was toward Elvis, they did regular Zeppelin with an Elvis impersonator. And there was some guy there, they had the free pizza, who was just biting off a piece of each one of them and putting them back, which I always remember. But the guy looked just like Elvis.
Now.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about that going, no way I would have. That got me forever for life not eating bar food when they would deliver it, because I always remember that. Like scarred for life.
It helps your immune system. Come on. Right.
That's why I avoided COVID so far, because of that pizza, because of bar food.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, Chaz always had good Rochester bands. He was in some really fun projects. Lotus STP was always a highlight of the scene. So he always had bands when I was a kid, but we didn't actually end up playing together until after I moved to New York. And I think he came and played with my first band, which was definitely not the best band, but it was fun to do that show. Or I don't know, I can't remember which of my bands you played with when we played at the Pyramid Club together.
Coming to New York, and it was buzz town. I mean, you could feel the energy. It's not a myth that New York has that kind of energy, especially when you're that age. And then I know we're both friends with a couple other people down there. I think Blair Buscarino and
yeah,
and some of the other transplants down there.
Yeah, I know Blair.
And so you got in with the punk scene there, the freaky punk scene, right? And
well, I mean, it was all kind of connected. Like I kind of was, when I first moved there, I was hanging out more in the garage scene because that was just what I was interested in that at that point in time. Like I already understood punk rock, but I didn't understand like how that emerged from 60s punk rock, like the Sonics, So I think I was trying to figure all that out, and just seeing a lot of really good garage bands that happened to be around at the time. And it was a small, circle. Like there were little different scenes, but everybody knew each other. So
what were some of the clubs at the time you went to for garage bands in New York City?
Well, it was really a very underground scene. Like there was the Dive, and there was this place called the Strip, and they were both pretty sleazy. Like if you think Backstreets is crazy, the Strip was like way worse than that. Just this really decrepit old Irish bar on 14th Street with really the worst worse than the bathrooms in Trainspotting type of bathrooms.
Oh.
So Yeah, that place was really fun though, although it was just completely decrepit. Um, and there were these shows called The Mind's Eye that kind of traveled to various locations, and they had one of those like 60s oil psychedelic projectors they would do. That was pretty cool.
We just had that last week. My friend Overhand Sam played a gig, and they had one of those like old plasma projectors behind it. I swear it looked like I was at like a Sid Barrett era Pink Floyd show.
Yeah, I mean, those things have aged well. Like they're still really cool looking.
I have like a group of friends now. They're like millennials, like around 34ish, who they really like. You would think with their music and the psychedelia, if you just showed somebody it, didn't say when they were from, you would think they were from that era. And they're really good students of that music too.
So, yeah.
I've got Jenna, I've got in my box of 45s a picture sleeve of your band, the Black Orchids.
Yeah, I think that's who you played with.
Yeah.
That's the only real recording we ever did because the band was just so full of drama.
Is Fleetwood Mac take two?
Not like that kind of drama. Sadly, not that interesting or fun. It was like two people in the band, neither of whom were me, were a couple. So there was that. And then she was like, her mentality was, oh God, I'm dishing the dirt. I can't do this. She told me she wanted to be famous by the time she was 19. And I was like, oh, please. And so I was just kind of like, well, okay. I don't know, our songs were probably not the best songs in the world, but we had a good time. And I played at CBGB's for the first time with them, which that's actually a really funny story because it took me a really long time to figure this out. Because we went in there to play at CBGB's for the first time, and my guitarist, Francis, was like, CB's is cool, but it's a really weird place, and the sound man has to like you. And he's kind of a weird guy, but just be nice to him, because like they won't let you play here unless the sound man likes you. And so we went on stage, we were doing our thing, and the sound man was indeed a really weird guy. And he started just shouting at the band and going, you better not fuck around in here because I can make you look great or I can melt you with these lights over here. And I was just like, wow. And so it took me like, I don't know, 30 years to realize that was actually Hilly Crystal. And nobody wanted to tell me it was Hilly because they didn't want me to like be nervous or whatever.
Two questions. Have you seen the CBGB movie with Alan Rickman as Hilly? How would you say now, compared to meeting him, how did that stand up, if you remember a little?
Well, I mean, it's not the worst movie in the world, but I and pretty much everyone else who was around at the time doesn't think it's at all realistic. Like, I mean, there was a lot of like sort of infighting among the first generation punk rockers when it came out because everyone just hated it, and then like people that had been paid to like be portrayed in the movie were maybe obligated to promote it, but it was controversial, I'll put it that way.
Probably too many people were still alive.
Yeah, and they had a weird way they filmed it where they almost did like comic book scenes with it every now and then, which is sort of weird.
Yeah.
You know, but I have no principles. I could hate something. Give me $1 million. I'll love it.
It's like, yeah, I think that whenever you're doing any kind of like biopic or something, it's always going to be from someone's point of view, at the very least. Like the Ian Curtis movie, you know, was very much from his wife's point of view. It was basically from her book. So it kind of paints him, not that it was untrue. It kind of paints him as kind of a prick.
Or Your Cheating Heart, which was from they ignored that Hank Williams they had a first wife.
Yeah.
Right there. But I have to ask a huge question. I've asked one other person this question. Did you ever have Hilly's chili?
I was going to say it's about the chili.
No, I would not have eaten anything at CBGB no matter how hungry I was. It was, you know, it had also really awful bathrooms and
yes, they're legendary.
You know, nobody was really eating at that time of night anyway. In fact, I don't really remember ever like cooking or eating much at all at home, or except going to brunch and stuff. Because I think I was just fueled by, vodka and lack of sleep, probably.
It has potatoes in it. That's eating. It's like I counted.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah,
thing, you're the second person now. Amy, I asked Amy Rigby about this, and her and Reckless Eric come to town all the time. And I asked her about this, and she said the same response you did. If you would have saw it, there's no way you would have eaten it.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I did go on to play at CBGB's many times after that with a much better band. But yeah, it was a really fun club, but it was always just crazy in there, especially when we were playing, it got really crowded. And so much of performing in New York revolves around like, how the hell do I get my equipment to the club? Because I live in Manhattan and no one has a car, and you can't really take that stuff on the subway. You got to like hire a guy with a van. So, it's you kind of like running the gauntlet through the show. It stops being so social,
Yeah, and I think there's moments in time, as I called them. I've been using that term a lot, like where we're part of something. Like for me, when the Bug Jar came to be, and you were down there, and I think they're like little snapshots or scourges that they're only going to be around for a while, the way they are, and we get tons of stories from them.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I just think it was kind of a legendary time, and maybe that's just me, being an old person. But I don't think I'm alone. Like kids that are in their 20s think the same thing about the 90s and the late 80s. So it was really a very artistically fertile time that factors have changed and things aren't like that today.
Yeah, who would think nowadays you go to Target, they're selling Ramones shirts and you hear Ramones songs at Wegmans.
Yeah, it's wild, isn't it? It's like we really never would have thought that would be happening.
No, I got nothing but hatred for liking Gun Club and all these bands in high school, going to a suburban Catholic high school. If you didn't like Journey or all those fun bands, you were like the weirdo. But now it's all those people. Oh, I have a Ramon shirt. I've never seen them.
I saw the Gun Club at Backstreets.
Oh wow, they're one of my top 5 favorite bands.
I talked to them because my friend had this fanzine called Butcher Magazine. And we were making it. We were teenagers.
Oh, Jeffrey Lee and everybody. Yeah, I love them.
And I just like walked up to them and was like, "Can I interview you for my fanzine?" They were really nice.
Oh, I always heard my brother met Jeffrey Lee and said he was like quiet. He was like concerned about his weight. He was like all of us. Only one I ever saw was Kid Congo and was at the Monkey Birds, Chaz.
Oh yeah.
They played at the Bug Jar, like literally under 30 people there.
Yeah.
He's still around. He's like an ultra hip guy. He has great soul record collection. I saw him spinning old soul records at a soul dance I went to before I completely dropped out a couple years ago.
Oh, that's cool. Now, what was the name of your band now after that you said was a better band?
Oh, well, I mean, there was kind of a progression. Like from that first band, I got invited to be in this other band it was just supposed to be this one-off thing where we were going to play for this party, but people really liked it. And then people in the band knew some guys who were like, had, been in the New York Dolls, and Walter Lure who was in the Heartbreakers with Johnny Thunders. And we started having them sing songs with us, and it turned into kind of this underground big deal. This band was called the Bowery Rhythm Kings, and they were kind of a cover band, but we covered like old, rhythm and blues, like Fats Domino or Hank Ballard, and then we'd have like Walter Lure or Jerry Nolan come up and play with us, and it was amazing. I mean, I was really happy to be doing that. We started writing some originals. Then I got into this other band called Uncle Wiggly, which actually did really well, toured Europe. They were on Shimmy Disc for a while. And they said they wanted me to play the drums and guitar. So I played drums and guitar for them. And we just right away got really good gigs, started playing at Maxwell's and CBGB's and places like that. And They're one of the only projects I was in that's actually like in Wikipedia. That kind of describes them a little bit if you want to refer to something. But they were fun. But then I got invited to be in this just awesome punk band that was like my favorite band in New York, that I was a huge fan of because everyone was a huge fan of. And their bass player suddenly left and they wanted me to play bass for them. So that's where I really did most of my shows. And I eventually got kicked out of Uncle Wiggily for being in too many bands and for prioritizing my new band that I was in, which was called the Willies, which really just a legendary, late 80s, early 90s New York punk band. And it was so much fun. I mean, can you imagine like your favorite band wants you to come play bass? And we had gigs, all the time, weekly or more often, and CBs, great clubs. And like between the Willies and the Bowery Rhythm Kings, we pretty much started the whole scene at the Continental Club, which lasted for a really long time after us. And so that said, it was an incredible band. Like we had a guitarist that was just so amazing. But he also had been in a really traumatic brain injury car accident situation. And so he was really emotionally unstable and junky. And so we did a lot of cool shows. Like we played with L7, we played with a lot of really cool bands that remain well known. But we were collapsing despite our best efforts due to having a member that was just super fucked up and like too fucked up to live very much longer. So we tried to replace him. We kicked him out, but it ended up with like the album didn't really sound as good as we wanted to after we finally got signed, and grunge had not broken yet. Like it really was almost a pre-Nirvana grunge band with like more of a blues influence than grunge bands actually had. If I had to describe it, with like an amazing like female front woman who was not me. I was the bass player. Lynn was the front woman, and she would just scream amazingly. And that wasn't really happening. That hadn't really happened yet. It was a new thing at that point in musical history. So it was a lot of fun, but we were just too sloppy and unprofessional because of people being out of control on various levels. So we broke up,
Now Jenna is not sloppy and not unprofessional.
No, but I have to interrupt. One of my friend's band, Fox 45, was one of my favorite bands around here. They are huge influenced by Level 7. They used to do Rebel Girl, and their sound at the beginning especially sounded a lot like L7.
Yeah.
And they've morphed. Now they're really like almost like doom metal. But it's nice to see like an evolution, because they started like that, wanting to be sort of L7, but then they get their own sound and they like something completely different now. But you sound like now, I remember we were going to do this a week ago and it was like Thanksgiving. You do a little acting too?
Yeah, I did.
That's our man acting. Patrick over here.
I did a little acting last week, and I was kind of able to, interestingly, acting with someone that years ago I was in a band with in Austin, acting in a musical that he wrote the songs for and wrote, and he's one of Santa Fe's most beloved songwriters at this point, but mainly does these quirky musicals now, and they're really good. And so I have been seeing them for a few years, and when an audition came available, I auditioned, and it was really fun. It was a staged reading. It was not like a full run of performances, because we're still kind of evolving the script to, become that full run, hopefully to happen next year. And it's usually like completely sold out shows for, a month. And it was great fun. I haven't done any acting in a while, so I really enjoyed it. And it was a musical called The Queen and the Kid, it's about Billy the Kid and the Lincoln County Wars, and a little known player in the Lincoln County Wars who really we don't know about her because she was a woman, so no one really talked about her. Sue McSween, the cattle queen. So she's the queen, and Billy the Kid is the kid, and the songs are just really, it's hard to describe them in words, just like really verbally clever but yet moving and interesting, just lyrically great and fun and highly original. So it was a privilege that, to work with a lot of, I mean, some of these actors have like been on Broadway or acted opposite Meryl Streep. I mean, there were some really good people in this cast. So I was just kind of like, well, I haven't acted in a while and I'm here to learn and have fun. And it was just a great experience. So hopefully I'll return to my roles in that play or musical when it goes on its full run next year.
Sounds great. I know about read-throughs just because of my friends here on theater, because I've been to many of them. They're cool and everything, but that's also, hopefully we could see it up here too, the way the world is now with social media and everything, just to see it. But how is the scene in New Mexico where you are then in terms of music and arts and everything?
Well, I mean, it's really rich. Santa Fe has been known for its art scene for decades or longer, so it's really a sort of destination for all of that, or
I've always heard Taos myself, and I know nothing about this, so
well, Georgia O'Keeffe did a lot of her work here and out at Ghost Ranch, out in Abiquiu, New Mexico, and Edward Stieglitz was photographing out there with her, and there's just a lot of traditions. I mean, from that to like Dennis Hopper hanging out in Taos in the 60s and 70s, and Janis Joplin hanging out in Taos. Like there's just a long history of this place being a mecca for free thinking artists, and it does kind of have that quality to some degree where you can it seems to be like a good environment for creating art, but we're also facing skyrocketing rents because everybody moved here during the pandemic who wanted to live someplace like safe and
Yeah.
And we have a lot of poverty in the community also that's not being addressed due to having a lot of like snowbirds and retirement people. So it's kind of expensive place. Like I imagine if I were a kid right now, like I would move to Detroit and try to get a big loft somewhere and pretend it's Soho in the 70s, so that's what I would do.
There has been,
I feel selfish like that. I think when you find your own little artist colony and create a place, you're good about it, but you want to go, don't let anybody find out about this. I don't want them to come.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's really not possible to create a body of work while working a job for 50 or 60 hours a week to pay your outrageous rent. It just doesn't work. People only have so much energy, and it doesn't really matter how gifted you are. You have to be not tired enough to do your art.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and be a working artist is, doing the artist is part of it. It's like you do the art and then you got to hustle to make a living out of that if at all you can. So,
well, yeah, I don't even know if it's possible. I mean, I make a little money off of music by performing in the orchestra pit for children's musicals like The Lion King, and that has stopped since the pandemic. So, I've had times when I was making like $300 or $400 a week off of music, but it's tiring to just basically, be a bar band and be working those bars 3 nights a week. And it's fun when you're in your 20s, but when you're older, it starts to look, the angle starts to change a little bit,
This is sort of like serial comic, but Steve Lyons, my good friend, was on the show. He's been around since, I don't know, Chaz, would you say even the late 60s? He's been around forever.
You know him, but I know what Jenna's saying. When you get to a certain age, coming home at 4 a.m. smelling like cigarettes,
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
little
I've been
different.
going bed
Yeah.
before midnight. But my friend Steve Lyons, he was on the show, so I said, Steve, what advice could you give younger musicians who are starting out since you've been in the business for so long? He said, honestly, find something else to do. Because the life as a working musician, find something else to do.
Now here's another dirty little secret. A lot of the major label rock stars, I could read an article, are poor little rich kids. You know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's true.
But,
Like even like I know friends of mine is because that's how you have time to create, because otherwise you got to work, survive. It's hard. Like there's only so many hours in the week and so much energy you have.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's true. It's a grinding, it's grinding to get by these days. I mean, I remember back in the 80s, I got my first apartment in a basement in some house off of Park Avenue for like $120 a month.
Oh, you wouldn't have that. You wouldn't be able to do that for a day.
Right?
Probably, I don't think. But because I know like Canada's got the artistic grants. I think a lot of the Scandinavian countries have where you can apply as an artist, and I think you get some things to do your art and everything, which is kind of cool. Pretty sure.
Yeah,
we don't do
that would be nice.
Study, but
It'd
stuff
be nice
like
to like live someplace like that where art is valued. But
but that's the
I don't know.
But what have you been doing, especially now we're like sort of giving a little sketch of everything, doing some
Right.
history.
Well,
But
so
what's going
after
on with
New York,
you now? It seems
I,
like you've got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, well, I was in Austin. I played with this guy, Joe West, who's also the guy who is the impresario behind The Queen and the Kid now. And we played together in Austin, got voted best new band in Austin, had a really fun time. But then I left. I wanted to move back to New York, but then 9/11 happened, and all Joe West and I both ended up back in Santa Fe, and I started playing with him again here. And that's when I really was playing, several nights a week and making pretty good money. And it was really fun. It was a great, great band, a lot of fun to do. And Joe kind of forced me into singing. I didn't really sing before that because I guess I was just kind of shy, and he forced me to sing back in Austin. And so I got better and better at it as his, backing vocalist and bass player. And then I just decided I wanted to start writing my own songs, and that really started a journey of being at home and kind of figuring that out for a while before I really having any results, which came at a good time because I wanted to stop being in the smoky bars. So things were kind of in development for a while internally, mentally, and craft wise. And then I reemerged in 2015 with a new project, and I've released 4 CDs with that, where I sing and play guitar. I play other things on the album. I play synthesizers, and once in a while I end up playing the bass, although I try to avoid it when possible and just remain on guitar. And I sing everything, and I do the arrangements and the songwriting. But, we've now kind of coalesced into an actual band. At first I was working with some really great studio musicians, but I can't afford to pay people to rehearse with me, and when they have other people who are willing to do that for them, they should go do that. So it took some time to really get people of a very high skill level who were there because they really liked the songs and willing to commit time to it. It took a while to sort through. And so we finally recorded our most recent album together as a band, sort of semi-live, like half live, if that makes sense.
Yeah, there's a couple albums actually I have like that. Actually, Todd Rundgren's album with the Cars, they had some even stuff like that.
So Jenna,
yeah, so I think we're now in a place where we're going to like write the next album together, which is going to be great. And we've been doing shows at skate school and just taking it out of that whole paradigm that we were so sick of like at the bar, alcohol linked. I mean, sure, someone can bring a bottle of vodka if they want, or they can bring in a joint. Cannabis is legal here. They can, do that. But we don't need to sell that shit. We are just going to collect money that goes to the musicians and people have really enjoyed it. People
There's a
have
place
really
called 75 Stutson Street now here. It's the same principle. You pay, goes to the musicians. They even film it. It's usually between 20 and 25 bucks to get in, and they have no bar or anything. They have, if you want to get like a Coke or coffee or chips or stuff, they have those.
Right. Yeah, we sometimes sell sodas. But like, yeah, everyone's loved it who's played there because the audience is very attentive because it's just a different paradigm. And we've gotten, press coverage in our local alternative weekly about it that was very favorable, which is really hard to get. So that was awesome. And, just kind of doing these shows on our own terms once a month with other bands we like and visual artists that we like doing projections onto the bands in, an indoor skate park. So it's been pretty great. It's been a lot of fun. That's what I've been doing.
You got to tell people the name of the band now.
Right. So the name of the band is Luminatrix, and you can find us on Instagram as Luminatrix Music, or on Bandcamp as luminatrix.bandcamp.com. We have a new single called China Again. And we have a producer who's produced, mixed all of our albums.
I've actually wanted to ask you about that because Chaz actually mentioned that we should bring up the producer. And how did you come to meet him and everything?
Well, okay, so my producer is Kramer, known for having had Shimmy Disc Records in the 80s and 90s. And gosh, I mean, he's just done like so much famous stuff that it's hard to pick because he was actually like in Gong, which is amazing to me. But Gong's kind of obscure. So I could say he discovered Ween, Daniel Johnston.
A couple of my friends would flip
Galaxy 500, like Royal Trucks, like all those people came out of the early Kramer days. And I met him because he wanted to meet me. I really don't know why. I had played a show with that cool band that had the guest rock stars. They were called the Bowery Rhythm Kings, but I don't know if he saw my show, and I've asked him recently, but he always dodges the question. Anyway, he just came up to me and introduced himself, and I didn't know who he was because I was always playing gigs and I did not go out to see bands because I was in like 3 bands and I was performing, and I was also a full-time college student. And so I was really, I didn't really, if I was going to go out, I was going to go sit in some like weird ass old man bar where nobody knew me and I could just like sit there drinking silently.
Well, that was my thing. If I was going to cause trouble, I would go like I'd have a friend drive and I'd go like to say like some unknown bar in Webster. So if I made an ass out of myself, nobody would know.
Right.
Too many vodka and iced teas, and you strip teas on the bar, me, and you don't want anybody to know. And in those days, like these days, now it'd be all over YouTube. But back then, it was like,
everything.
Yeah. So I was like, I don't know who you are, and he's like, I'll be right back. And he comes back with this stack of records. I was like, I don't know, a good 6 inches high, and he hands them to me, and he's like, these are bands I've been in or put out their records. And at the time he had just gotten done being in the Butthole Surfers, and
he did like, that album with Jonas Hall. I remember that.
Yeah, he's always worked with him. And he had worked with Eugene Chadbourne in Shockabilly. Who's now you can see Eugene Chadbourne in the Saturday Night Live band, which is, interesting.
I know Ween's playing because some friends of mine are going to see him in New York for a bunch of dates in February. And I saw Gene Ween play at Lovin' Cup. Yeah. So that's my extent for Ween stuff pretty much. My friends love them. I mean, I like them too, just not as much as like they're so avid. It's
incredible. I guess what Kramer is best known for is producing "Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon" by Overkill off of the Pulp Fiction soundtrack, and he won a bunch of awards for that. And it really is well done, that song. So
I see a pattern here with these bands that you're talking about with him, and I think there's a White Zombie connection too. And
there is. He did something with White Zombie also.
So the connection, and I'm being flippant, is Mentally ill. Rock and roll madmen. Compliment.
Yeah, well, I mean, aren't we all rock and roll madmen living in our rock and roll fantasy?
Yeah.
True. Well, Chaz, no names, okay? But who would you say is like, what was like one of the weirdest persons you played with? No names, though.
Okay, I'd like to see how he answers this.
Just say the person saw like whatever, because we had one in one band, the bass player saw ghosts all the time.
I can't compete with Jenna. I mean, listen to all this. I've been with normies compared to her. I don't know how
It's not a competition, Chaz.
Yeah, no, it's not a competition. It's not like trying to be the weirdest guest we've ever had on this show.
Yeah, nobody's trying to win this. It just happens.
I've just played with maladjusted dorks, not like like Jenna.
That's going to be a good name for a band, though, too. The Maladjusted Dorks.
It's true. No, I mean, the Rochester scene really was a lot more subdued, and we didn't have, CBGBs. We had like the Replacements and the Ramones passing through, but we didn't have anyone like that locally. Like the main band at that time was the Chesterfield Kings, who were amazing.
Oh yeah, I'm in touch with Greg a lot still. He released an album and he did a signing at House of Guitars, and the big reason honestly was just because we haven't, like, some of our friends, we hadn't seen him in so long, just to go down and say hi because of COVID, because like everybody lost like over a year.
Yeah,
it's right. No, I know, and it still feels that way. Yeah, no, Greg and I have stayed in touch too, and he's a great guy.
He's really anti right now. He ruffles some feathers because he's so sick of like.
He likes
Stones.
to do. He likes
with
to
the Stones, though, especially. You've seen his post like with the Stones about him. And I said the Stones are trying to be
ranting about Tab.
Yeah, Tab. He's like a Tab man all the time. Timothy did. He's like, I can't find Tab anywhere. Find it.
It's awesome. I mean,
it reminds me of Harlan Ellison going on about Hydrox cookies a little bit. He always said this thing about Hydrox cookies. He would go on,
yeah,
but he's not going on about the Stones. And I told him the Stones are like Kiss now in terms of merchandising, because he constantly goes on about the Stones and their merchandising now.
They've always. I mean, that's not a new thing with them. I mean, they it was when they they did the jacket, it was I
think he does like to stir the
Are you there, Chaz?
Yeah, I'm here. And speaking of this is a little
I think I lost. Oh wait, there you are.
Hey, here I am.
Okay.
He's up to your left.
Stones merch. Last Stones merch I read about a couple years ago, I almost wanted to get, so goofy, was a crystal decanter full of vodka. And it was the company. It was a novelty. The company was owned by the actor who was in Blues Brothers, who's still alive.
Dan Aykroyd.
Oh yeah, Crystal Head.
Yeah, Crystal.
Yeah, that's Dan Aykroyd's. Yeah, that and the House of Roses are his big.
But back to Luminatrix. If you want my impression of what I've heard, you're not trashy and grungy, but you're still hard rock or whatever, indie, and you got some real artistic flourishes. I don't know if you're influenced by St. Vincent at all, or
I actually really just don't like St. Vincent. After I just felt like, I don't know, it all started when I saw her just like butchering Nirvana. I didn't like that. I don't know. She seems to be too derivative and lack heart. And I hate that, because I wanted to love her. Like, of course, a woman playing the rock guitar, I want to love this person. I just don't like St. Vincent, I guess. So yeah, no. But I love Lorde. I'm influenced by Lorde.
I like Lorde enough too.
Yeah.
I like Billie. Okay, I'm going to confess. I like Billie Eilish.
Oh, I love Billie Eilish.
My friend Adriana, we do a lot of work at the studio.
Billie and Phineas are just amazing.
She goes into a lot of the electric, like Sheila Lennon, Billie Eilish. These are bands I don't know about, and I like Billie Eilish.
Yeah, no,
Billie Eilish is a great singer. Like, she's going to be remembered, And she is more stable than, say, an Amy Winehouse, who is also a great singer.
Oh, she was
But like, who
amazing.
knows how long Amy's gonna be remembered? She honestly, she didn't make that many albums, and her
Yeah.
legacy was tarnished by self-destructive behavior. But I don't know, like Billie Eilish has issues. Like I think she's talked about having Tourette's and stuff, but she seems to have like a good team, you know,
Her
and
brother,
being actually
too, like, I
really
think her
fucking
brother
stable,
sounds
which is
like
awesome.
To watch sometimes, she did the Hot Wings challenge. They have it online. It's called Hot Ones. She is so, watching it though, she's so natural. She's not put on it out. She's burping, drinking milk. It was just great.
Well,
Yeah.
You look at some of these people who start really young, and I feel like the thing that some of these really people who start really young is they're okay still being kind of kids. You know, it was always like a rush to kind of manufacture adults out of these really young people. But this, you know, but I think like about her, she still seems to have a lot of that energy of just her own age, which is fine. Like if she like didn't know who Van Halen was or something like that. I'm
And
like,
she
so
shouldn't
what?
at her.
You know,
She shouldn't at her age, though.
exactly. But it just like
unless you're like a real music nerd or somebody, you know, you come whatever your perspective from your generation.
I feel like, you know, that's a thing. Like it was the old like child star thing. Is these, you know, kids would be forced into this adult world, and then.
Well, we had
I
one
mean, the
singer.
whole system, it was terrible. Like the whole
whole-
studio system was horrifying on multiple levels and really damaging to the artists involved, which is why so many of them died. But then in the 90s, it turned into like, oh, well, Aerosmith and Metallica really employ a lot of people, so let's try to get them into treatment/therapy. And now, if you're a working band, you're not on substances, period, because it's unprofessional. So there's really been a shift in the paradigm. It's good.
Yeah.
You know, I'll give you a weird analogy. This makes sense, though. Professional wrestling, where you go back to the 70s, 80s, these guys were like drug addicts, drunks, everything. Now, your professional wrestlers are basically, for not a better word, nerds. They're all into video games. They're all into clean living. They're straight edge. And I suppose you realize it's going to tear you up doing something like that if you start doing the crazy.
It's physical.
You know, it's you, especially like Roddy Piper would say, you get high, you do downers and everything. That you want to kill your heart. Just do uppers, downers. Don't know which way to go.
But yeah, it's an interesting occupation.
Yeah, but I think also we came up organically, where now they just try to manufacture stars. They look for a look.
That's been manufacturing stars since since.
Oh yeah, I agree with that too.
On one level, but yeah,
you know, I don't know.
But
you've had your experiences and stuff. You bring that to the table and everything else. And how many instruments do you play?
I play a lot of instruments. I mean, I'm really. I have a drummer who's outstanding, and I'm not into like playing drums at this point, although I did enjoy doing it with Uncle Wiggly. But, you know, I don't know. I don't play like wind instruments, but I guess I can play all this string instruments. I have some instruments that it's hard to know what instrument they are exactly. Like I have this 8-string guitar that I play, but it's not a guitar because guitars don't have 8 strings. It's like a 12-string guitar, only if it were a tenor guitar, that's not a tenor guitar either. So it's kind of this unique instrument that someone made for me. And we decided it's a electric mandolin cello. So
cool.
You know, I've always awesome. I play that live on like one song usually because it's got this really distinctive sound. So I play that. I play the electric mandolin cello. I guess it's a baritone. It's a really low, growly guitar. And then I play guitar. I really try to avoid playing bass anymore, but I do still play the bass. Vocals, keyboards, you know, piano. And what else do I play? There's a couple other weird things I play. Oh yeah, I play the rindic, which is a gamelan instrument. And I was in a marimba band once, but I don't really play the marimba anymore.
Gamelan.
Yeah.
There was a band in Rochester.
When I hear gamelan, I say game on.
Game on, gamelan.
That's how they got to start the concert, though. Game on, game on.
Hey, I have another plug, which is
that's what we're here for.
you guys can you guys, if you don't want to like buy our single from Bandcamp, you can go hear it on if you don't live in Santa Fe, which you probably don't, you can stream 98.1 KBAC Radio Free Santa Fe. They have our single China Again in rotation, and it's also on their Spotify Fresh playlist. So they're like our beloved local independent music station, the likes of which few exist in this country anymore, that because we're Santa Fe, we kind of watched them get sold to Clear Channel and bought them back and preserved them, because
we have
really
a few underground music shows here and like an underground radio station, but that's about it.
Well, this is like a station that plays me in between David Bowie and Lou Reed. Like, I'm like, wow.
Hey, that's
not
great.
Really, it's like an adult alternative or something. It's not underground. Like, I'm about as underground as they get on this station. So, their support over the years has been fantastic. And if you check out their live in studio appearances in October 15th, 2021, Luminatrix, or most of Luminatrix, appeared live in the studio. It was me, our drummer Dave Darby, bassist Vince Copia appeared as second guitar, and I played rhythm guitar and sang. So that's a really fun alternate arrangement, alternate band configuration that we don't usually do. Usually it's drums, bass, rhythm guitar, and violin, but like more like space sounds played on a violin. I
actually have to send you one band, fun, my friend Sean McBay's band, which is like Black Sabbath meets Pink Floyd's King Buffalo. It's like almost like a cosmic rock. I think you'd like it.
Yeah.
But one thing, you're putting something out on an album though, right? Too. Now this is coming out on an album too, you said?
Yeah, it's called Antihero, and I want to put it out on vinyl because I just want to. And
that's what the way people are going now, and I'm glad the way, because I have younger friends who they'll tell me they only do streaming, if they don't know CD player or record player, and I feel like I'm old.
Well, a lot of young people do like vinyl. It's very popular, and I pretty much only listen to vinyl unless I really have to not get something on vinyl.
Where can we get these things if we want them, like the vinyl when it comes out? Do you have a site?
I guess you have to follow us on Instagram, and also on Instagram you can go to my link tree, and it has links to all the stuff I've been talking about, like the Bandcamp, the Radio Free Santa Fe live radio show performance. So that's all on the link tree of the Instagram, which is Luminatrix Music. So go follow us on Instagram, because that's where I'm active. It's supposed to cross-post to Facebook, but it doesn't always make it through for some strange reason.
No, it's weird. They've been lately. I've been getting ads, and I'm like, a lot of posts I've been doing have been not seen or vanishing or stuff. I'm not really. Right. I'm weird, but I'm not like offensive. Well,
yeah, I don't know. Like I like Instagram better. I should be more active on Twitter, so that's a goal. But
I hate to say it, but my friend Alyssa does it. I don't want to like even say it, but she does TikTok, and she says it's actually worked a little for her. Now I can't recommend it or not. Maybe look at it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. My son is a YouTuber, and he can get like 15,000 views on a video, but it's because it's like related to Star Wars or video gaming that he's really good at. Like, yeah. I don't know. I'm not trying to.
That's why I'm over at friends' house when we do Zooms.
Hard. Like, my strategy more revolves around like send the songs to radio stations, the few remaining radio stations that are out there. Try to get actual people like driving in their cars who still listen to radio stations to listen to them. And I don't know. I could be more ambitious. Once there's vinyl, I will be. I'm going to take it to record stores. I'm going to drive around, like old school with a bunch of albums. But first it has to be pressed by Third Man Pressing, which has a long waiting list that gets longer every day as famous celebrities now
Yes, I'm
clog
starting to hear about
the
this.
pressing
I'll have
plants.
to get,
So they
we'll have
do
to buy a
community final
copy, and I know
sale.
our friend Mike would play it up here on a whole lot of shaking if I gave it to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd play it. You know, I'll get a copy of it too, so I'll buy one.
Yeah, so just follow the Instagram because then you'll get updates, and that's where you can find all the info these days.
And I know we have some time constraints, and I want to be a good boy about that for everyone.
Yeah,
but thanks so much for being on. Would you like to come back sometime, hopefully?
Sure, I'd love to come back. And you mentioned that we could connect over the weekend about
yeah.
I guess you're right up with that.
This will come out on Monday, so we'll make sure we get all the info.
Like one,
and I don't know if we could play a song or not. I don't want to promise you.
Yeah.
I wish I had gotten you the album prior to this. I've just been so busy because I just had so much going on between the shows and the play, and I should have emailed you. Did I email you the record?
No, I didn't see it, I don't think.
Okay, well, can you text me your email, and I could send you
I could text you my Pat's email too if you want to send it to him, and he can maybe play it. I don't want to get into that about the technical stuff because I don't know.
It just get it. If you get it to Rob can get it to me, or can get it to me directly, or however.
We'll figure something out. If it's not there, we can do it the next time.
Anyone's email that you'd like me direct it to, I can send you the single and all of that.
Cool.
So cool. Well, thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks so much and everything. We actually hit the hour mark, and I didn't want to screw you over because I don't know. And Chaz.
No, it's okay.
All righty.
Thanks, Chaz.
Thanks a lot. I'd be in touch because, like I said, it'll come out Monday, so no worries.